Welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Randy, and today we have Jodi Evans with us. Jodi is one of the founding members of Unchurch, and she's also a pretty amazing person. Uh, we'll let you determine. I mean, but the reason why I proclaim her to be so is the little bit that I know of her story. She has overcome great adversity. Um, she's just really inspiring to me, and I think she'd be very well. The odds are in your favor of being inspired by her. Um, but instead of me like just going on and on about praising Jodi, I'll let her share a little bit about herself. So Jodi, if you could be kind enough, please share with us a little bit about where you come from, who you are.
Well, Randy, I am so honored to be here. I have really enjoyed being connected with you and seeing the things that you put out in the world. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Um, I am a 52-year-old grandmother. Um, and now I'm proud to say I am a full-time artist. It was a journey to get here. I, like everyone else on the planet, was born into a world of programming. And I was born to some Chicago Catholics, and we had a very specific expectation on us growing up. And one of the reasons why I really relate to what you're trying to put out into the world is because I was born into a family of alcoholism. And so that whole recovery piece of your story and what you try to put out in the world just really resonates for me. So I was born and raised in Chicago and was a good little girl and did everything I had to do to make sure everybody was happy with me. And I was always doing what was right and what was expected because it didn't rock the boat, and it made it safer and easier for me to get through my life. And I had this dream inside me to basically be a hippie. And that was not the world that I was raised into. I have memories as a child of sitting on a couch and an adult standing over me telling me how I will go to college and here's why, and I will make something of myself. And I was born into a world where business was what mattered, and 9 to 5, Monday through Friday business. And you will go to college and you will make money. And that is what is a success in our world. We don't do art, we don't sing, we don't dance, we don't do those fun things. It's about going and being a success and making us proud of you, and your success is an extension of who we are. And so that was the world that I was born into. And when I was 7 years old, my grandparents, my dad's parents, were doctor and nurse, and they retired to St. Petersburg, Florida. And when I was on spring break, my sister and I flew on an airplane to St. Petersburg, Florida, and went to visit my grandparents for a week on spring break. And there were palm trees and sunshine and swimming pools, and it was warm. It didn't snow there. And you could go to theme parks and you could play in pools. And so I had this burning desire to move to Florida. From the time I was 7 years old. Oh, that's the promised land where you can go do it and be fun things. And I bet, as I got older and more of an understanding of different personalities and ways of living, I bet that's where the hippies live, right? Where it's warm, and there's palm trees and beaches and sunshine. And so sure enough, I grew up and I had children, got married and had children. And when I was 28 years old and I had 4 kids, we moved to Florida, and life was very different. Suddenly being alone away from both of us, we literally went down to Florida and knew nobody. It was just us and our 4 kids. And of course, everything went wrong that could possibly go wrong. And that, like, just for example, while we were driving down there with a 24-foot truck filled with everything we own, and then I drove the minivan with the dog and the kids, and the zebrafish were in the distilled water bottle on the floor behind the passenger seat. And so we had the fish and everything. And on our way down there, the apartment complex that we had sent our money orders to for our deposit decided to pull a fast one on us, and we're going to put them over in that other complex, and that is in the bad neighborhood where you wouldn't want to raise your children. And so we get down there and we get to the office of the complex with a 24-foot truck, and a friend came down with us and was going to fly home. She came to help us move our things and return the truck and, see ya, have a nice life in Florida. And we get there and the office says, oh no, there was a mistake and we gave away your apartment and you're good, but we can put you at this other complex. And we go to the other complex and we're unloading the truck. And well, I went in and I'm setting up, we get in the hallway and there's like, bugs everywhere and dead lizards. And I'm just like, this is not Florida that I thought I was going to with my children. And I get in the apartment and I'm hanging up the shower curtain in the bathroom so we could at least take showers and just, rinse off this trip and figure out what we're doing next. And my children's father, my husband at the time, came in, and apparently his inspection of the kitchen did not meet his satisfaction. And he came in and told me to stop putting the shower curtain on. We are not living here. And we went to the office and we got our money orders back. And now we're sitting in Florida with 4 kids in a minivan and a 24-foot truck that we have to return that's filled with everything we own. And it snowballed. It was one thing after the other went wrong. And, we went to a hotel and we're there with, I had an 11-month-old who was like learning how to walk, going between the beds of the Red Roof Inn. We went to a Red Roof Inn because they took the dog. And we have this big truck outside and we're like, well, what are we going to do? All right, well, let's get a storage and we'll put everything in storage and we'll at least return the truck and we'll figure out what to do. All right, no problem. And it was one of those things that just kept snowballing and everything kept going bad. And I can, like, now, because we don't have an address, because we don't live there and we have money orders, well, we got to get these money orders turned back into cash so that we can get our money to figure out where we're going to live now and what we're going to do next. And it was just, everything went wrong. And I remember standing outside of a 7-Eleven looking at my husband, and we were both freaking out. And I remember putting my hands on his shoulder and looking at him in the face and just saying, this moment right now, this is it. This is where we decide. We are either going to turn tail and go right back home to Chicago and act like this never happened, or we are all in and we are staying here no matter what. We are going to make this work. We are going to figure this out. We have it in us to do this. And it was just this critical moment that I knew, I just felt in my entire being that I had a choice to make, and so did he. And we were either all in or we were not. And we decided in that moment that we were all in, and everything started to turn around. The minute we decided, this is it, and I tell you this story because as I tell you the rest, that's where it started in me. That's where it started. And so many people hear so many different parts of my journey and they're like, oh, you're so brave, or you're so this, or you're so that. And it's no, that's not what it is. I'm the same as everybody else. But I figured out that we get these moments, we're given these opportunities where we decide right now, either I'm all in and I mean it, or I'm not. And that is what too many people don't realize, because we all have it in us.
I agree. Absolutely.
So, because a lot of people always ask me why I start with the Florida story when I tell people. That was the first time I had belief in myself.
Yeah, yeah. No, that is certainly an instance where I would bet that at least half of the people would say, no, this wasn't meant to be. This is crazy. Big mistake. Going back to Chicago. And you didn't.
We just decided. And when you decide, this is it, I mean it. I don't care if I have to sleep on someone's couch. I don't care if I have to work 3 jobs. I want it bad enough. You'll find resources inside yourself you didn't know you had.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I also noticed this came up again recently because my youngest son is moving from Florida to Seattle. That's quite a journey from Florida to Seattle, in like 2 weeks. And he had something come up. He was making his plans, and he had something come up. And I remember messaging him and telling him, as soon as you start, you decide, you're like, this is it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my life. And you start walking in that direction, the universe will very often offer you an, are you sure? Are you sure? And it'll look like chaos and everything's going wrong, but that's not what it is. It's your opportunity. It's the universe giving you one last chance to go back, and you're supposed to say, no, I mean it, I'm moving in this direction. And if you do that, then suddenly everything will start falling into place. And sure enough, that's what happened for my son. And I got to remind him that that's what happened to us going to Florida. And that's what happened to me every major change I've made ever since.
Oh, wow. Oh,
you
yeah,
get
yeah.
you get an are you sure, but people mistake that for oh, I'm supposed to go back, this isn't supposed to work for me. No, 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 it's your last chance. It's an are you sure? Do you really want it bad enough? And if you
Right,
say yes in that moment and you claim what's in you, what's capable, what's possible, that's where the click happens. And that's when everything really starts to show up.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. Again, it's easy enough to see in theory. Hey, I'm fully committed to this. I will do whatever it takes.
Yes.
And then whatever it takes reveals itself. And
Yes.
you need to recommit. I think
It's an
that's the key thing is, again, it's a principle in recovery of persistence. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I said I was going to quit and quit for a day or two. I mean, triple digit number and stuff, but staying quit is the challenge, you know?
yes.
And
Yes.
again, this a lot has to do with the principles of recovery and unchurch. But yeah, with yourself, it is a basic thing that anybody can use and benefit from is being fully committed and recommitting regularly, which also
Yeah.
means not just a thought, not just a word, but then demonstrating it by your actions. Then
Right.
you
An
move.
opportunity to walk your talk. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A friend of mine uses the phrase "God hates a coward." Now, I don't think there's really truth exactly in that per se, but the paradigm is if we're going to go through life scared, fearful, and stuff, it's going to be a self fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm.
All the things that you fear and are doing your best to avoid seem to pop up. And perhaps it might just be because that's what you're focused on.
Yeah.
So hey, if I'm sure that there's problems here, I'll find them. If I'm sure there's a solution here, I will also find that as well too. And I believe that's human nature with everyone. We want to find problems, we're going to find them. We want to find solutions, we're going to find them. And it's just as you kind of talked about, growing up in the family that you did. Um, we're so influenced by our family, our developmental years of how we define who we are and how the world works comes from this first group of people, called family
Yeah.
and stuff. And if we grow up in a family that says, well, like they wanted you to do, have this the quote unquote security of a 9 to 5 job. This is the only way to do it.
Yes.
Again, of course, is all hypothetical, but again, most people will, yeah, that's just the way it is. That's the way everybody I know does it. This is the way things are. And in reality, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's so funny. I just remembered when you said that, I just remembered one of my first ahas was around that topic, the whole 9 to 5 thing. Was I met someone who was a mother and she was in an orchestra, and her job was going and playing in an orchestra. And so she would leave her family at weird times of day to go practice or to go be in a show, or and she had this career. She was like a cellist or something, and she had this career as that kind of musician. And I was fascinated because I'd only known Monday through Friday office people up to that point. And I was like, oh my god, you can do that, like you could go. And then it made me understand, well, yeah, there's actors and there's artists and there's singers and there's people that go do these things for a living. And I mean, even now, well, I didn't, I don't want to jump ahead and skip parts of the story, but I did end up working in hospitality for many years, and I was an overnight person. And even now, it blows my mind how many people just can't comprehend. Like, there's a whole segment of the population that works, 3 to 11 or 11 to 7 overnight so that you can sleep at home. People that work in 911, people that work hospitals. I'm still very much an overnight person in my habits. And, I have people that just don't understand how I can be up till 4 in the morning every single day and sleep till noon. And I always think, well, there's people that work 911 that have to.
Right.
You don't give them grief. Why are you giving me grief?
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
we just need to open our minds to, half of our issues in life we don't even realize are because we simply have not opened our mind to possibility.
Yes. Yes.
We just
Absolutely.
need to see possibility everywhere
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is
And
everywhere.
and that's it is looking for problems, looking for solutions, the possibility of problems, the possibilities of solutions. We've
Right.
just become habitual because the majority of the world is looking for problems. And it's my understanding that that comes from, again, the social conditioning that originated millennial ago, thousands of years ago, when that was what was needed to survive. Well, even up till
Right.
just like the last 100 years ago and stuff. The skill to discern the difference between friend or foe was a matter of you and your family surviving type of
Hmm.
stuff. This day and age, certainly some neighborhoods, kind of what you alluded there and stuff. Yeah, you can hit there, but in general, you just go, no, like your husband did. This is not a safe neighborhood, and we have a choice in the matter and stuff, and we will do whatever it takes for us to be safe.
Right.
But and again, that's an obvious physical thing. But getting into the psychological and emotional safety and security and stuff, that's what I'm alluding to and stuff. The security of living life as you've been taught by your parents and your peers. And so
Right.
we've got to have a 9 to 5 job. We have to do this and that, whatever they tell us. Otherwise, that's not safe. That's reckless, and that's careless, foolish, that type of word. But
Right.
and hey, I'm sure that that is a way of living that works for a lot of people. On the other hand, I do know personally, and a lot of people that are in the unchurched group, that they came to a point where they realized, hey, this is not for me. Okay. I,
Yes.
I will, again, yes, money's important, but making money at the cost of having any type of joy, happiness, um, no, I'm not going to pay that price any longer. And
Yes.
it can be scary because, again, we're programmed that this is foolish and stuff, reckless. But once we move forward, and again, recognize that we have a choice and we can make a commitment to do this, that, yeah, there's millions of people that live life on their own terms as opposed to conforming to what society is. So again, hippies, yeah, I happened to grow up in the San Francisco Bay Area. Again, when you talk about Florida being hippies and stuff, obviously Haight-Ashbury, there was a lot of hippies in the 60s. I was going to school in the 70s and stuff. So I kind of caught the tail end of that in regards to a lot of parents or, older siblings of the people I
Hmm.
was growing up with, of knowing the spirit of hippie lifestyle. And really, truly, again, yeah, we could talk about the easy stuff about fashion and the music and stuff, but there's a spirit of it that I don't need to live my life on anyone else's terms but my own.
Yes.
But at the same time, I can live in community as well with other free spirits.
Well, and that's what really kind of opened up to me once I moved to Florida, and we had no family, no friends, nobody with any expectation of who we needed to be. And so now, we get down there and we're trying to, nothing went the way we expected, but we're here now. What do we do now? Well, when you live in Central Florida and you need a job, you go to a theme park and you get a job. And so we both went to work at Disney, and I went to work around him because first I was working on his days off, but then he couldn't get overtime on sixth and seventh day where the most you make the most money. So, hey, what if I work weird hours around you and we can both work as much as possible, but one of us is always home for our children because we know nobody here to watch them. So that's how I kind of started on these weird hours and doing weird things. So first we each worked in theme parks, and then I applied for I went to work overnight when working on his sixth and seventh day wasn't good enough and I needed to go overnight or at least work, other hours. So then I went and I was stalking. First, I worked in Disney's MGM Studios just as a merchandise person. And then I went to stocking stores at downtown Disney overnight. Well, they back in the day, we didn't have everything wasn't on the internet yet. And they had a weekly newspaper they put out for cast members. And on the back, they'd have all the job postings. And one week he brings it home and he says, "Hey, look, they have overnight managers at the hotels." And I said, "Wow, I could apply for that." And I went and I applied. And I still think the reason I got the first job was because they said I could tell the interview was going really well. And at the end, they look at me and they said, "There's only one problem. The days that we would want you to work are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday." Well, nobody wants to work weekends, right? And I looked at them and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Those are the same 3 nights I work now." And I still think saying that got me that position. And I became a part-time overnight duty manager at Disney's All-Star Resorts. And so 3 nights a week overnight, I was the only once everyone went home for normal hours, I was the manager for 5,760 rooms and three front desks and all of the backstage areas. And it was just what I did. Mom would go to work on the weekends 3 nights a week. I'd go to work and get there at 11 o'clock at night and work till 8 or 9 in the morning and come home and sleep during the day while dad was at work. My kids were homeschooled and we worked all that around our schedules, and we just had a very different life than we had in Chicago, and it was fun and we loved it and the kids were happy. I loved working overnight because when you're any parent who has to have their kids, with a daycare or something during the day, if somebody gets sick, then you got to leave work and you got to go take care of your child and you're worried about them all day. And then you're worried about work when you're at home. And by working overnight, they were safe with someone overnight and I could just let it go. They were asleep. They didn't need me and I could be all in at my job and be the best I could be. And then I could go home and sorry, there was a bug. Um, I could go home and be all in at home and not worry about work because during the day they've got teams of people running things and they don't need me to worry about work. So it gave me an opportunity to do a really good job at both by working these weird hours overnight. And I ended up working at Disney. Well, the first time I worked there almost 4 years, and then I worked there 11 and a half. So altogether, I had 15 years while I was raising my kids of being an overnight hotel manager at Disney World. And it was quite an interesting career. And then when the kids were, their dad and I had ended up getting divorced and I'd gotten remarried and that didn't work out. And by the time my kids were finally going to be out of the house, had been promoted and was a leader of leaders and still in hospitality and still working overnight. And it was quite an interesting career and quite an interesting life. And I saw as my children started to get older and move out of the house and go to college or whatever, that they weren't going to need my salary, they weren't going to need my insurance. And wow, maybe there's a glimmer of hope that someday I could just go do what I always wanted to do and just kind of go be an artist and not have to, if they're not dependent on me and I only have to support myself, maybe I could start living this life. And I started seeing um, the RV life as an opportunity. And I got this somewhere along the single mom journey. I got this idea that when that last kid was out of the house, I was going to quit, take my retirement, cash it in, and buy an RV and just go be free. And that just became my touchstone to get me through those years, those teenage years. It's going to
Yeah.
be all right. We can do this. And when I followed through on it, a lot of people were shocked. My mother especially was like, Why would you give up a perfectly good career? The kids are out of the house. All the money's yours now. But it wasn't. I was still giving my kids half my paycheck anyway. Oh, mom, I need help with rent. Oh, mom, I need help with groceries. It wasn't mine anyway. I was still just helping my children. And I saw that the only way I was finally going to truly be free was if I just bit the bullet and put myself first for the first time in my life. And naturally, once what I talked about, once you make a decision that you're going to do something, life will work with you. You will be given opportunities you never dreamed. I never dreamed in a million years that I would be sitting on my porch smoking a cigarette outside on the patio at my apartment, and I'd be scrolling on my phone after work one morning, and I saw some guy on Facebook talking about, evolving your soul. Like, I Kyle Cease, I didn't know he was an actor. I just saw this guy talking on a commercial on Facebook. Hey, did you know you could put yourself first in your own life? Oh, really? I didn't know that. And just a lot of things fell into place, and I just started being exposed to different people and different ideas at the right time in my life. At the very same time, one of my children decided to give up a child for adoption. And that had a huge impact on me. I could write a book just on that one experience. But it happened at a certain time in my life when I was about ready to go be on my own. And just five different things just converged all at once to make me just go, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm just going to quit. And I'm just going to walk into work on Tuesday morning, and I'm going to tell my boss after his weekend, hey, welcome back. I'm quitting in 6 weeks. You've got 6 weeks to find my replacement. And I just did it. And everybody was stunned. They were like, oh my God. And like I said, my mother especially was like, oh my God, you're just going to give up your paycheck? And, yep. And my insurance and all my benefits. And I'm just going to trust that while I'm young enough that I have what it takes to build something completely new, and I don't have to follow anyone else's rules. And I fully expected to fall on my face a few times, and boy, I have. And by continuing to pick myself back up and keep moving forward, I have had some incredible experiences I never dreamed I would have.
Yeah, yeah. So how long has it been since you made your resignation?
5 years. Like
Five
literally
years.
this week is like 5 years.
Oh, how happy anniversary.
Thank you. I left August 31st, but I told them this week it was like July 14th that I started my own Facebook group and just started going in a whole direction with the Joy Love Bus.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of where I'm familiar with you. And then, yeah, with the Joy Love Bus, so many amazing things that I've seen online, and I'm sure there's many, many more that I'm not aware of. So, I guess what, as you start on this adventure, you've answered this call to adventure and you're moving forward, and, it's not always easy.
Synchronicities everywhere. So I told work that I was going to be leaving in 6 weeks. And I was still that good girl that wanted everybody to be happy, the people pleaser, and it was just my nature. And I was very much corporate career person, but I would go home and I would make art and I would do mixed media things. At one point when the kids were younger, I had done some needlework designing, and I had a business, Designs by Jodi Evans, and I had gotten my counter cross stitch patterns distributed by a global distributor, and I was in stores around the world, and it was really exciting. And then I had a very abrupt divorce and had to put that aside, and my heart had just always been waiting to get back to once I'm in a position in my life where I can go all in on the art and no one can stop me, I am going to do that. So that was always my goal. And I remember sitting, just getting this weird, like I wasn't one to get intuition. What is that? That's that thing that people talk about, woo. I wasn't woo woo at all. Right. and and I just had this vision out of the clear blue one day of this bus called the Joy Love Bus. And it was all very, everybody loves each other and everybody supports each other and everybody's really happy to lift each other up and just be in this community where it doesn't matter where you're from, because I don't fit in anywhere. I am not, contrary to what many people believe, based on things that I put out in the world, people tend to put me in this box or that box, but I don't fit in any of the boxes. I don't belong to any political party. I don't belong to any, I just think that all of us are too much to be put under one label, and we need to stop doing that. And but I just was very, I don't know, I felt embarrassed to tell people, like, I just had this idea for the Joy Love Bus that sounded so, like, really far out hippie, and I was just like scared to go there with it. And I was in a Facebook group that was just really about people, just growing themselves and working on themselves. And so I told people in that group, I was in this evolving group, and I told people, that I had this idea of the Joy Love Bus. And it was just the community where you could talk about anything, and it was a safe space, and you could just be you, and you'd be allowed to just show up. And there was no, it didn't matter what your politics were, it didn't matter what your opinions are. You were just safe to just go, this is where I'm at today, just show up for me.
Mhm.
And all these people are like, oh, hey, that's a great idea, we can't get enough of those, right? And that's how I feel with your unchurch. And just a safe space where you can just show up, and it doesn't matter if, maybe, we'll go out on the street and people will say you're this or you're that or whatever, but in here we're just humans, and that's and I just really, just that called to me so much. And art just called to me. And I when I worked at Disney, we had very strict rules on what you were allowed to, your appearance. Like, we had a look book. Literally, it was called the look book. And it discussed, like, your fingernails could not be more than a quarter inch past the tip of your finger. And basically, it's if you take a number two pencil with a brand new eraser and you put it, and your fingernails could not be longer than that. And you couldn't have weird color hair. And so many years, in order to keep my, like, I had, and earrings could only be sewed out far down past your lobe. As a corporate career woman in their company, you were had to stick to these. And I had this dream every time I'd go get my hair cut or trim my nails or measure another new pair of earrings to see if I could wear them at work. I would tell myself, it's okay, someday we're going to leave this job, and then we are going to go to bed that day with hot pink hair and turquoise fingernails. And that's how I got through, like, the last 9 years of the job. And so the day I quit, I literally went home and I went and got a manicure and got turquoise fingernails and dyed my hair hot pink, like magenta hair. And I just ran across that picture the other day. And I just totally went so far in the other direction into this other part of me when I quit that job. But talk about synchronicities. The day I left the company, the morning I walked out of the office, and I have two of my coworkers with me, helping me carry all my things into my car. There was a skywriter. They had given me a party at work, so I was leaving later than usual. And apparently, around 11 o'clock in the morning, there's a skywriter over Disney when they have all the guests there. And they were starting to write, trust Jesus. And they had just finished the word trust when I stepped out of the building and looked straight up in this perfect Florida blue sky with white fluffy clouds. It said trust in the sky as I'm walking away from my job. And my name is Jodi Evans, J-E. And by the time I got to my car in the parking lot, they had done the J-E. And as I'm driving out of the parking lot from this job into the unknown, the great unknown, I have no idea what I'm doing next. And I was only 47 at the time. And I look up at the sky and it says, trust J-E. Like, the universe, you can't make this shit up. I have so many of these you can't make this shit up moments because I trust, I have faith in myself, and I have faith in the universe, and it will not fail to show you what you are capable of
If you allow.
if you allow it. And people want everything to be easy, but that's not what I said. I said it will show you what you are capable of.
Right, right.
That's the difference.
Exactly. So one of the challenges of people in recovery is that they have low self-esteem. There
Mhm.
are, a lot of stuff that they've done that they're ashamed of. A lot
Mhm.
of, we'll use the word failure and stuff. A lot of times falling short, and yeah, going through the process of recovering self-esteem. Again, you have to recognize that there are opportunities for you, and then pursue them. And as when you accomplish and overcome these challenges, you start realizing, yeah, I'm better than my past. All
Yes.
that stuff that I have shame over and that I regret,
Oh,
and that
we
personal
all.
resentment type of stuff, would you go back and never do them again? Oh, no, 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 never. And it's like, well, that sounds like you learned a lesson. Oh, I learned my lesson the hard way. I'm like, so why are you beating yourself up over learning a lesson?
Yes. I had that discussion with a friend, and she was she was like, if I was 47, I think she was a couple years older, she's like 49, and she just kept harping on if I could just go back and change something when she was like 32, like 17 years, right? And I said, "You know what? You didn't know then what you know now. If you did, you would have done it different, but you didn't. And guess why you know different now? Because you had that experience. Now you know better.
Yeah.
Clearly, and I told her, I put it this way to her because it made so much sense to me once I figured this out. Because like everyone else, I have made plenty of mistakes. I have tons of things to be ashamed of if I chose to wallow in it. Like, I have family that chooses to sit home and drink alcohol and go to the depths of their shame and despair in the bottle. And I have watched them do that, and literally not wanting to be them is part of my motivation to get where I am today. And but I told my girlfriend, I said, if you were what's 8 and 17, 25, if you were 25 years old and you saw an 8-year old, would you expect an 8-year old to know what you know at 25? No, you wouldn't. You would be like, that's a child. Of course, they're going to learn these 17 years to get to 25. But you won't do that for yourself from 32 to 49.
Right.
You won't tell at 49, you won't look back at your 32-year-old and be like, oh, the way a 25 would look back at an 8. It's the same thing. 17 years on this planet of learning, growing. I make mistakes all the time. And then people are so quick to judge because that's Jodi Evans, the girl who did all those things. She's not allowed to make mistakes. And they judge me like crazy. I've had people block me, kick me out of their life because they don't like decisions I've made or whatever. And I'm like, look, dude, I never claim to be perfect. I am not afraid to make mistakes. That's the only difference. I fall on my face. It's not my fault if people choose to celebrate the wins, right? Because I'm sitting at home way too aware of the mistakes and the failures, right? But you do three things right and people go, oh my God, that's just the culture we live in. But I just keep putting myself out there. I'm not afraid to make the mistakes and fall flat on my face. And that's how I keep moving forward and keep going and learning and getting better and not beating myself up for it. And boy, it's hard. Do you know how many days I wish I was an alcoholic or something because I don't
Mm.
have crutches. I don't even now I have health issues. I can't even do carbs anymore. I have to do like ketosis for medical reasons. So I don't do white potatoes. I don't even get to have a French fry. Like, dude. And then now I just quit vaping. I'm like, oh my God, I literally, if someone takes my caffeine away, I'm just going to call it a day. That's all I have left. But
Got to draw the
man,
line somewhere. Let's not get too crazy.
exactly. I'm like, caffeine's my thing. I could say I'm one. But yeah, like I just don't give up. I just don't give up. For some reason, I decided when I was a child that I'm going to live to be 100. I'm here for a full century, period. And so for some reason, I'm just supposed to be here a really long time and I'm not allowed to give up. And so the only other opportunity is to keep going because I'm not going to throw in the towel when I know I'm still going to live 48 years, right? So
Yep. Yeah, you're just getting started and learning how to be Jodi Evans.
exactly. And I figure I gave the world, when I turned 50, I decided I had already been, I quit my job at 47 and Kat took my retirement money, bought a truck and travel trailer, and I did the RV life for 4 years. It was very fun. I never meant it to be forever. It wasn't. It was for 4 years. I had a great run. But I finally had the courage to make art and let myself be an artist. I needed more space to make art, and that was that. And then I had health reasons why I just couldn't be in the RV life anymore. And but I decided at 50 that I was done living for other people's happiness. I decided, you know what, for 50 years, half a century, you have done what other people wanted, what other people expected. You have been a people pleaser. We are done. We are done. The other 50 are mine.
Yeah.
And for 2 years, I've just been practicing living for me.
Right, right. And very interesting. The conversation is including this, that I just did an interview with a woman, and she was talking about very much the same thing. That, and the key element I want to contribute here is, she said, look, at the beginning it seems really selfish, because especially because your whole life it's always been about everyone else,
Yep.
and it's just the way we do things. And so that's how it's done, that's being a good person, and such. But once you start understanding that just as those people have needs, that each of us have our needs,
Yes.
and to have those basic needs met is not unrealistic. In fact, actually, it's what the essence of self-care is. So
Yes.
using, talking about, reflecting upon an 8-year-old child. So this 8-year-old child, would I want them to be eating nutritional food? Yes. Then maybe I should. Again, I love myself. I care enough about myself. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to take care of what for my health in general and such. Happiness. Again, if that child enjoys making art, would you not, again, you're a mom 4 times over and stuff. Hey, yeah, you know what? Let me provide you the opportunity to create here. And you're going to encourage your child as well, that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it may not necessarily be anything other than on the refrigerator, but as far as you're concerned, they've created beautiful art to be appreciated and such. Well, why couldn't you? That, again, you've created a piece that, yeah, it may not be going in the Louvre. It may not be selling for millions of dollars at an auction,
Yes.
and such, but this is something that you created with the same innocence and creativity that a child would. So again, with ourselves, treating ourselves in the same type of patience and the kindness, and ultimately love, again, the self-care of, like, no, it's not an ego. I had a story in my head about it being egotistical and selfish and
Yep.
self-centered.
Oh,
And so
absolutely. Yes.
things that, well, actually, this awareness came to me. I got a haircut before I needed a haircut. I was always the guy that I would be months before. It was like my wife would just like, you look like a hermit, you look like hell, you go get a haircut, kind of thing. And he's, yeah, whatever and stuff. I don't care about what I look at. And I got a haircut after a couple 3 weeks, just because I wanted a haircut.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of like, wow, that was kind of luxurious what you did. That was what you don't get
Just get the
haircuts
haircut.
until you have to, Randy, and stuff. And then again, what I just shared with you, it's like, yeah, but if
Yep.
if you were Randy's father and stuff, you'd probably be telling him to take care of himself in regards to personal grooming and such, whatever exactly that is.
Yep.
Doesn't necessarily need brushing your teeth, take a shower today, all this kind of stuff. And it may seem very simplistic, but it was very much an epiphany for me to treat myself in the same manner I would for anyone else that I loved and cared about. And if I wasn't living in that way, then essentially I wasn't loving and caring towards myself. And there must be some reason for it. And for myself, I concluded, that, yeah, I was living someone else's expectations in life, growing up in a household that, again, where do I come up with the idea that getting a haircut every 2 weeks is extravagant and luxurious? Well, it's because I grew up in a household like that. My dad used to put cardboard in his tennis shoes, type of guy. And I was, even while I was, Dad, you come on, we're not rich, but you don't need to be. You can buy a pair of tennis shoes at Kmart for $5. No, 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 no.
Right.
Kind of stuff. You'd come up with all reasons and stuff. So it was instilled upon me that anything that most people would not think is luxurious was that way. So again, we have these stories in our head that we need to release, and it's been my experience that basically it's not until the pain becomes greater than the fear of change that we ever
Mm.
do anything, such as, well, gosh, I mean, it's easy enough for me to joke about, talk about haircuts and stuff. I mean, a major life change like you've done many times over. Everything from the relocation to Florida. You mentioned for several marriages. Again, while being a single mother, again, that's not easy. That's
Mhm.
maybe the hardest thing anyone can do. Again, the sacrifices of working evenings. Again, making things happen. But most of all, yeah, the fact that you left what everyone told you was the right thing to do and pursued your passion. You listened to yourself. And when I say listening to yourself, again, that small still voice, that your essence, your being, your soul was guiding you to a lifestyle that you've craved since you were a child. Again, coming to Florida and quote unquote being a hippie. And again, I don't think hippie is necessarily fashion. I don't think it's necessarily a music. I don't think it's necessarily a location. Again, talking about like Haight Ashbury in San Francisco and such. Um, it's a state of being. It's being a
It
free
is.
spirit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and again, what may seem countercultural, maybe even revolutionary to some people. No, it's a matter of going, no, I know who I am. I know what's important to me, living in that way. I'm not doing this with intention to cause any harm, but also
Right.
I'm doing this with the intention not to take any more shit from society. you know,
Yes. Yes. We
yeah,
live in a
that's
world
again,
where it's radical to just be a human,
yeah,
to
yeah,
just allow yourself to be a human. And
right.
that's radical in the world we live in because there's so
Exactly.
much programming and expectation.
Yeah, yeah. And again, humans, again, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Again, cause no harm, take no shit, and live with gratitude. Again,
Yes.
we live in such a materialistic consumer. Again, it's countercultural to say I have enough.
Yes.
We live in a world where, gosh, well, my wife's phone is finally got to pain and stuff. Her old iPhone is finally giving out, and she's reluctant and stuff. It's kind of this come from a similar upbringing and such. I don't know if I really deserve a new phone and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But it's again, most people, yeah, the new phone comes out. I need a new phone. Yeah.
Hmm.
New car again. I was living in Southern California, affluent area there and stuff. People were getting new cars every couple 3 years. Again, wearing the latest fashions and type of stuff is there. Again, the consumerism, and of course they, you know, presumably had the income for this, but again, they were perpetually always acquiring more and more and more, and they were again they're in, and they were basing their self-worth upon their possessions and how good they were coming off. They were keeping up with the Joneses type of thing,
Yes.
and again, that's not limited to one geographical location, but that's again, it's almost like that's the American way. Again, consumerism is the way. Credit cards. It wasn't that long ago that if you wanted something, again, there was a thing called layaway. Okay, I want
Oh,
to
I remember
buy.
layaway.
Yeah, again, the Christmas account. Okay,
Yeah.
people would put $5 in their Christmas account. And the stores like that because they knew again that meant you were going to buy something around Christmas and stuff. But
Hmm.
the concept of having credit cards, I've got a credit card now. I can go buy something, and how
Hmm.
many people buy just to buy something?
Hmm.
That again, that's a lifestyle that demands that you conform, and I owe, so I have to work this job I hate, and I have to be miserable. And you hear people say things like, thank God it's Friday, because again, they're living a life that they hate. Or I hate Mondays because they have to go back into the workplace for
Right.
approximately 8 hours, if not more, you know, to pay for all this stuff that they didn't really need, type of thing.
Hmm.
So again, logically, if you step away and it's not personal, you're just like, yeah, maybe, sure, I might be kind of doing something where I quote unquote will be losing all this. But typically what you're losing is the burden that society presents us that we're conforming. Now, please, anybody who's listening to this, I'm not, encouraging people necessarily to go into their boss's office, flip a lot off and walk out and stuff. Now, if you are going to make that, like, again, as you said, went on for years. This was something that you, again, were recommitting to, and you're very intentional about this lifestyle. Even when you gave notice, it was 6 weeks before you
Yes.
actually left. So that was
Yeah.
it was a very responsible thing here. But I also do mention this because I've gone through it myself as well in my own unique ways, that doing this act that at the time is very scary. Therefore, there's courage involved with this. Once it goes past the mental and emotional aspects and it manifests in reality, and such, it's greater than you can ask for or even imagine. To start living life on your own terms,
Oh, yes.
um, it's quite empowering. Um, but yeah,
There's so many things I've given up to have freedom, and I wouldn't go back.
yeah,
There's like, if I never got it back, I'd be okay, because the freedom is just so much more important to me. It just,
and that's it. That's it. Well, we've been talking for a little while now, and again, I could probably talk with you all afternoon, Jodi. Again, you're an inspiration. And again, if you're wondering what I meant by it, here we kind of got to the punchline and stuff. It's the fact that she is a courageous woman. She sets intentions. She is fully committed to moving forward, and when she recognizes the opportunities to move forward, she hears the call and takes it. And then again, when difficulties arise, she doesn't give up. She perseveres, and ultimately, that's led to a life of freedom. I mean, gosh, what is really, again, all this stuff about whatever it is that of a life of success all means is, well, yeah, if I do this and that and stuff, I'll have the freedom to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Well, it does not necessarily mean you have to wait for when something happens, then I can do something that will bring me this happiness. We can be happy and therefore, in a state of being of this joy, and therefore we do things that are joyful in face
yes.
of adversity, and eventually, yeah, we have it. It's a process, but we have to have a
I
little bit of faith in ourselves, in the universe, those around us, and that's what our communities, again, her Joy Love Bus community is about. Being yourself. Just by being yourself, you're enough. You have more than enough.
I just want people to know. I keep a sign, I on my wall. I can see it from where I'm sitting. You have permission to not show up in the way you think they expect you to.
Oh, that's a powerful one. Yes, exactly. No, that's really it. So again, in closing, what would you like people to hear again?
That's it. You have permission to not show up in the way you think everybody expects you to. You have permission to say, you know what? I am here today and this is what I want. And I'm allowed to want what I want. And I'm allowed to be who I am. And I might be something totally different tomorrow. And that's allowed too. You are allowed. Just tell yourself, I have to tell myself every day, I am allowed, because we're allowed. And when that's not selfish, and how freeing and what a beautiful gift if you could tell someone else, if you could walk up to somebody else and say, you're allowed and I support you. Wouldn't you want to do that for someone else? Well, guess what? Do it for you.
It
Because
begins with
you
you.
doing that
Yeah.
is giving them permission too.
Yeah. Yeah. Give yourself permission to be you. And
Mm-hmm.
probably there's going to be some people that aren't real happy with that because again,
Yep.
you've been living in a way that made them happy and stuff. So
Yep.
that, again, all of a sudden, again, recognizing that you deserve this as much as anyone deserves this. I mean, again, wouldn't you want those that you love and care about to be themselves and
Yes.
happy while they're doing it? Again, content, and understand that they lack nothing within them energetically. Okay, you may look outside and it's like, well, maybe again, I'm having a hard time paying the bills. But who we are in essence, our being, we lack nothing. We have everything
Mm-hmm.
we need. And
Yeah.
it's funny, again, when we take that state of being, all the external stuff kind of comes in line in minutes too. May not mean necessarily that you get the fancy car, fancy house, you know, that kind of stuff. Again, that materialism, that consumerism, that's not what I want anybody to take away with this. Because frankly, that's where at least myself and stuff kind of that misunderstanding made things difficult. Just again, allowing yourself to be you, understand that that is enough to have more than enough.
Yes, and I think of it like a pendulum, like we've talked about the extremes. There's an extreme of consumerism, and then on the opposite, there's an extreme of lack, and not giving yourself permission to even buy gym shoes, and but there's this beautiful area in the middle, and it's the biggest area in the middle. Yep. Where you can find balance and you can find peace and you can give yourself permission to bring in income, or doing whatever you want to do and having what you want to have. You're allowed. If you're not harming anyone else, you're allowed. You're allowed to have your own thoughts, your own ideas, and you're allowed to get your hair cut as often as you want. You're allowed to wear whatever you want. You're allowed to do what you want to do. And I mean, I can go back to, if I want to, I can always go back and get a corporate job again if I wanted to.
And yes, absolutely. And nothing wrong with that as long as you're being true to yourself.
Exactly.
Exactly. So those that are listening, again, thank you for taking time out of your day to just listen a little bit about an amazing life called Jodi Evans. I'm pretty darn sure if you pause and take for a moment and stuff, you'll see that your life is pretty amazing as well too. And if not, well, come to the Joy Bus Club, or what's the name of your Facebook group, Jodi?
The Joy Love Bus.
Joy Love. I knew as soon as I said it, it was wrong. But
yeah. And people can find me. I'm on Facebook. It's Jodi. It's with a capital D in the middle, because my full name is actually Jocelyn Diane, and so it's Jodi, makes Jodi. And I just decided it felt more authentic to have a capital D. So if you look up Jodi with a capital D, then you'll get me, because Jodi Evans, believe it or not, is a somewhat common name. But I'm Joyful Jodi Evans on Facebook and on Instagram, and I welcome anyone to reach out to me at any time if I can help them honor themselves. I would love to do that.
That's wonderful. It's a promise. Okay. Again, thank you for honoring my life, your life, and our listeners' life by being present here, Jodi. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.